In this presentation, we will continue to enter the deposits from our business and personal bank statement into QuickBooks. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. Here we are on the home page. We currently have the open windows open. You can open the open windows by going to the view drop-down and open windows list. We're now going to go back into the check register, going by the banking drop-down or going to the banking drop-down and down to use register. And we're going to use the checking account. So we will continue on what we have so far. We've been entering the deposits from our bank statement. We're going to be continuing to do so. We are now on the deposit for the 12th, where we had Amazon book royalties. And we're doing okay on our Amazon book royalties. So we're going to enter that in. We're going to enter this in as personal because it's not part of the primary business that we're trying to break out. Our primary business is the purchasing and selling of guitars and guitar lessons, and we're trying to break that out separately. And so we're not putting the royalties into that business, and therefore we're going to record it on the personal as personal income. We're going to go back to our QuickBooks file. We're going to say that this happened on the 12th. So I'm just hitting the plus arrow to get up to 12. This is going to be a deposit, DEP. We're going to put for the deposit. We're going to put Amazon, and then I'm going to put book royalties. If I just put Amazon, which we could do, then we might have multiple types of Amazon that we're going to get different things. We might pay Amazon, get multiple different types of revenue from Amazon. So it may be best to differentiate the types of Amazons that you put in there for different types of activities. So if it's for book royalties, in other words, you might want to put that. If it says specifically on the bank statement, if it gives you some kind of reference on the bank statement that's always the same, then it might be best to use that, even if it's a reference number, because that'll help us in future transactions to know what we're recording. So we'll keep it there, and we're going to say tab. We're going to quickly set this up. I'm going to keep it as a customer, even though it's going to be kind of a personal, on the personal side. This isn't part of our principal business that we're pulling out, that we're trying to separate. So we'll keep, but we're still going to use it as a customer so that we can track it in the customer center. And then we're going to be on the deposit side, and the deposit was for 3600. Now, note that I just picked up the wrong number for the deposit. It should be 9417. We picked up the 3600. I'm going to keep the 3600 so that we can then find it when we do our adjustment, when we do the bank reconciliation. So we can see that we do have a check against making errors other than just a double entry system, and that will be the bank reconciliation. So we're going to keep this number. Note this number's wrong. Don't let that upset you. We're going to go forward with it. And then we'll show that as something that we can correct with our correction process, that being the use of the bank reconciliation. We needed an account. Because we are considering this personal, we are going to create a new account for it. We're not going to use one of the pre-set up accounts that QuickBooks has set up. For the personal accounts, we're going to set up new accounts for them and assign the class to them. Now, note that it is possible to, for example, pick up the income account here and break it out between two classes, personal and business. But what I'd like to do for this type of accounting, we want to separate the personal as much as possible. And so we're kind of doing a two-step method to do so. We're setting up a different account entirely and setting up the different classes for that account. And so we'll show that, and we'll show different kind of methods you could use as we start to analyze the reports. So we're going to create an account called Amazon book royalties. And so and it doesn't have to be the same name all the time, but oftentimes it is with deposits because we don't get many deposits from different areas. So it may be the fact that the customer is the same as the account we set up. The account name may be the same as the customer name. So we'll set that up. It's not going to be an expense type account, but an income type account. So we want to make sure to select that correctly, and that'll be that. So we're going to say enter and OK. Oh, one more thing we got to do, and note if we don't do that, note what'll happen if we go to the reports up top, company and financial, and we go to the profit and loss by customer or by class, and we change this to 010120 to 123120. That's January through December 2020. Note that this item then, if we don't assign the class, it's going to go into unclassified. We know it's a personal item because we set it up as Amazon book royalties, and we know that's a personal line item. And we know that all of this amount in that account should be over here on the personal side. So we need to assign a class to do that. So to go back to the checking account, so if you forget to do that, not a big deal really, because you can then check the reports out and easily see the way we have it set up that it needs to be assigned to the proper class. We'll discuss how to do that from the report side rather than even having to go back here to the check register later. But for now, we want to do it in the check register by going to the splits over here and changing that class to personal and saying record. And yes. Now note we did not do that for this item. We didn't assign a class at all. And that's because if we go to the profit and loss, then it's going to the correct unclassified. That being our default, that being the business, unclassified being the business. So this way is going to allow us to assign the class as few times as possible and hopefully save us some work. We will go back and assign classes for these business items later and show you the advantages and disadvantages of doing so. The disadvantage being it takes a little bit more work. So we'll go back to the checking account and then we'll go back to the next item. Let's go ahead and cross these off. We haven't been crossing these off as we go. We'll highlight that. That's done. That's done. That's done. See, that makes us feel better. The work has all been completed here. So now we're on the random rebate. Random rebate. So we got some money from somewhere, and it's pretty small. We don't really care about it too much because it's, you know, a random deposit for an immaterial amount. But we need to put it in the system because we need it to reconcile. So we're going to say that this happened on, the random rebate happened on the 15th. So I'm going to say plus, plus, plus 15. It's going to be a deposit, and it's going to be I'm just going to put random rebate for the customer. We're going to quickly add that. We're going to say that it is a customer. Okay. Deposit side, make sure we're on it. And then it's going to be for $7. Now here we might set up an account called random rebate, but we're probably not going to get too many of them, so it's not worth tracking. It's not worth us setting up a new account typically. What we might do instead is set up a miscellaneous income account. That's what we'll do here. We're going to say this is going to be miscellaneous income and tab, and we'll add that, set it up. It's going to be a personal, it's going to be an income type of account. So we'll make it an income type account and save and close. And then we might want to put a note here because this is kind of a weird one. So we might want to say this was a random rebate, and we might discuss what the rebate was for and whatnot. And then we want to assign the class. So go into splits down below, go into the classes. We want to make this the personal class and record. Say yes, that's it. Next item, we're going to go back to our reports. We're going to highlight this. Next one is a business. So we don't need to assign a class for this one because it'll default to the default, which is our business. And that's going to be on the 15th. We're going to have a deposit. And we're just going to go to the deposit side. That's going to be 45200. And now we can select the drop down, business type income, therefore being part of the defaults. We're going to go up and say this was sales. So this is our sales already there given to us from the system. Any deposit that we get for business purposes, we assume is some type of revenue. And okay. Next item, same thing, deposit for the business. So we're just going to say that's going to be on the 28th. So 28 is going to be a deposit. On the deposit side, 4900. And once again, we'll just select the drop up. We're going to go to income, and it's going to be the sales item. Sales, enter. Okay, next one is going to be interest income. Interest income. So we're going to say that's going to be personal. On the personal side, interest income. So we'll go back over here, and that happened on the 31st. So 31st, we're going to say deposit, and that's going to be income. It's probably from our bank, but I'm not going to put the payee there. I'm just going to skip the payee, and I'm going to create a note called interest income. So interest, not expense, but income. Oops, income. There we go. And tab, set it up. Now it's going to be an expense type account. Some people will want to put it in other income. I'm going to keep it just as income up top. So we'll keep it on the top line. I'll tell you why once we do some different type of sorting options between our classes. So we'll say save and close. And that's the one. That's what we want. That's the one. And then if we go back to our profit and loss then and say, yes, this is what we have so far. We can see the personal items are broken out, so we can see our personal income, and we see the unclassified is going to be business, only one line item, because all the business items are going to be under that line item. Note that this $3 we should have in a personal account. So again, we can always go back in here and say, is there something that we didn't classify right? Now I'm going to go the different way. Instead of going back over here to the checking, going into this and assigning the class, we're going to go from the profit and loss and say, okay, I know that this one needs to be over here because we know that the only income account for business is the sales account. So to do that, just to see how easy it is to kind of go back in here and reassign the classes if we know the proper accounts, we can go back into this 3, double click on it from here. We get the deposit screen, which is the same as the check register really. Every time we make a deposit, typically QuickBooks will make a deposit screen. And then we can go to the classes here and assign the personal, save and close, yes, yes, and close. And so now it's assigned back over. Now we can make this even more distinct, as we'll do later, by telling ourselves exactly that this is a personal account by either saying in the account name personal, so that we'll know for exactly that anything that's over here in the right hand column or unclassified under an account labeled P or personal or some other label that we'll use, that we have to go back in there and just do that for every transaction to recategorize them to the proper category. So we'll set up a few methods to make that look a little bit easier, because as we can see here and as we can see when we do the expenses, it might be a little bit difficult for us to know which accounts we want to be business or personal. And so if we assign those as we create them and label them in the account name or in some other fashion to say, hey, this is personal for sure, by putting possibly personal or some kind of indication before the account, then that might help us to go back in here as easily as possible and reassign anything that needs to be reassigned. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.